For those of you who are here who have just broken up, I am sorry. I know it's very painful. And for those who have been rejected and broken up with, a lot of us are trying to salvage whatever we can from, the person that we love, right? And that's what this video is about. It's trying to stay friends with your ex, whether we should or not. There's a lot of videos out there. However, I'm not here to give you any advice. I am here to give you a perspective, and hopefully that perspective will help you make the decisions that is best for you. Um, but before I get into the perspective, I need to lay down some groundwork. Some definitions I have to establish. So first, what is what is a partner? How do you define a partner? Like, who qualifies to be your partner, right? So if you haven't read my book, it lays out the four things that someone needs to have in order to for you to qualify them to be your partner. Okay, first is they have to be attractive, they have to be compatible with you, uh, they have to be trustworthy, and the last one is they have to commit to you, right? And these four things are here because you need physical affection, you need companionship, you need to feel safe and secure, and you need a better increased quality of life, right? So these are the four things that you need from someone. And of course, what you need from them, they also need from you, right? The same four things. They need to find you attractive, find you compatible, find you trustworthy, and that you have the capacity and you have decided to commit to them, right? So 8 things, four from each, the same things, okay? So you have also heard that your partner should also be your best friend, right? We've all heard that before from various sources, and that's true. And why is that, right? And but before I get into that, I want to define best friend. Now, best friend is not a position that someone holds, right? So it's not like I have a best friend, I have a slot for a best friend, and once I have a best friend, like no one else can be a best friend. That's not how. I don't think that's how it works. In my personal opinion, best friends are like a title you give them or a qualification, right? So you can have multiple best friends if they are equally qualified. They are they qualify to be your best friend. Like they're all equal, right? So your partner should be your number one friend, and then you have other friends that you've known for a long time or you're really really close with that they can also be your best friend, right? Okay, so that's besides the point. Um, why are your partners your friends, your best friends as well? So here's why. Because what is needed to be what is required to be a friend? Now I've asked several people about this question. What is required to be a friend? And some of the answers I got are pretty interesting. But but what I want to share is one of the sets of answers. So one of them was good communication, and they don't want to make you, butt your hands into the wall, right? They don't make you go crazy. So good communication. And what does that mean? Well, it means you understand them, right? Good communication. You get along well. You um, probably have some common interests, right? You have the same values, same beliefs. What is that? That's compatibility. That's kind of compatible, right? You need someone compatible to be your friend. You can't just be friends with anyone. You can be friendly, but that understanding is kind of required for you to be friends with someone. Okay. Now, of course, that's not the only requirement. Another answer that I was given was um, honesty. Well, what does that mean? Well, it just means that they're not lying to you. Whatever they tell you is the truth, and that's what they believe, right? They tell you what they think is true. They're not going to lie to you. They're not going to cheat you, and that looks very similar to trustworthy, right? And the last one is the answer I got was loyalty. No, loyalty looks like about the last one too, right? The commitment, the choice that they make to put you in a spot where if you need them, they will be there for you. The loyalty, the commitment, right? The same thing in a relationship. So when you find someone that meets these three things, um, they're probably a good candidate to be a friend with, right? Now, of course, you also need these three things that to qualify someone for you to be their friend, right? To qualify you to be their friend. So What is missing here? The missing here is the physical attraction, right? For the relationship. You can be friends, and then if you're also attracted to them and they're also attracted to you, then you have a potential for a relationship, right? To be partners for each other. So, what happens during a breakup? Usually, what happens during a breakup is one of these eight things is not being met. Okay, so for example, um, if they, two people started dating and for some odd reason they find one of them not being all that attractive. Originally they thought they were pretty attractive, but once they've got to know them after a year or two, it's like, yeah, you know what? Maybe that chemistry wasn't working out so well, right? So if that's not the case, this person decides to leave, right? Or start thinking about it because they're not that physical affection is not really there, or at least in one direction, right? So um, it might still be fine this way, but this way is not so satisfying, right? So um, in this case, they might lead to them to have certain thoughts and behaviors, like maybe they might start looking for somebody else, and that cuts into your trust, right? Your trust in them. They might start to feel a little less trustworthy. They might start to hide information, or they might, distance themselves from you with less compatibility for quality time. They might not be as good of a companion as they used to be anymore, right? They don't spend time with you. They don't want to talk to you. They don't want to do things with you, right? So that's you're dropping in a bit of in companionship there, or maybe they're just not really committed to the relationship anymore, right? So if you have a problem, you have a bad day, they just they just don't really want to be there to cheer you up anymore because one of the things is lacking, or maybe it's not physical affection. Maybe it's they find out you're just not really compatible. Like you don't understand them, right? So you don't get them. They have a bad day, or they have a hobby, or they're interested in something new comes up, and they're really excited, and you're like, yeah, I don't understand why you're so excited, right? So over time, that builds up, and that leads to other actions to start to fall apart. And as of course you can guess, it's for you. It's probably not the case. You probably aren't the ones that start you're not the one that start the lack of trust, and you're probably not the one that started the lack of commitment, right? So it's usually these two that lead to your partner wanting to leave, right? And there's nothing really you can do. It's in this case, it's just incompatible, right? So now that you split up, okay, now that you split up, or your partner decides to leave, um, should you stay friends with them? Well, let's go back and see, right? What's so physical affection is not needed. We don't need those. We don't need that one. So what's remaining, right? Like I said before, they probably start lacking, dropping the frequency of companionship. They might start emit information from between you and your partner, your ex, and maybe they start doing some white lies to you because they don't want to hurt you, right? They still kind of care for you. They're not here to deliberately hurt you. So they might say some white lies to make you feel better about this situation, right? But they're not really honest with you. Okay? They're honest with themselves, but they're not honest with you to make you feel better. And they're not committed to you anymore, right? That's why they left. They might still help you around. Um, if you have some non-relationship issues, like nothing about them, maybe it was something at work, or maybe it was something about your living situation, whatever the case, right? Maybe it's your other friends that you want some opinions on, and you ask your ex. It's like, well, what do you think? Obviously not about your ex. What do you think about the other friends, or this situation, or that situation, or whatever, right? Maybe they might help you a little bit, but that commitment really drops. Now, if you just look at it from face value, if you met someone who doesn't have a lot of commitment, not very loyal, not very trustworthy, and doesn't have a lot of connections. I mean, okay, so you used to connect, right? But they're not willing to anymore. Do you want that person to be your friend? Right? That is the perspective. Is that when two people break up, usually the qualities of being friends are compromised. They're just not there anymore. You might still be a really good friend to them. And there are cases where the person who has left, right, who dumped the sumps to dump the other person, um, wants to remain friends because they did connect, right? But because they were lacking, they because this person was lacking in something, they don't want a relationship with that person anymore, right? The dumper doesn't want to be in a relationship with this person anymore. Friends, yes, but again, friends in one direction, but in this direction, it doesn't quite work, right? So, do you want to be friends with someone that doesn't have all the friends qualities? Now, I wouldn't say this will never work, right? Even if you don't have these, if there's compromised qualities or it's not quite met, it could still work. People win the lottery, people get struck by lightning. I'm not going to say this is not ever going to happen, or it's never going to work out. And there's actually another situation. There's, I would say, two situations. One is an exception. Two situations where this would still work is one of them is when both people decide to break up at the same time. So neither of them are happy in a relationship, or both of them realize that this is not going to work out as a relationship. They just want to be friends. And it's usually this case when they both find each other kind of not attractive for each other, right? They're still compatible, they're still trustworthy, they're still committed to each other as friends, but that physical affection is just that chemistry is just not there. And that's if this was the only factor, the physical affection not working, and they both decide to leave at the same time, then this will work out. They can still remain friends. Another situation, I guess there's three. The other situation is if you were friends before, right? If you were friends before you started a relationship for a long periods of time, and you got in a relationship and didn't work out, so you both tried, right? You both tried. It's not going to work out, so you can remain friends that way. The third one is kind of an exception, which involves children, and in that case, I wouldn't say friends necessarily, but I will say friendly. You most likely want to be on a friendly relationship with your partner if children are involved, because your priority should be more on your children than on yourself or the other person when you're not in a relationship, right? So in that specific case, I would say try your best to not be friends, but at least be very friendly. um, so I hope that this perspective will help you decide whether or not you want to pursue the a friendship with your ex, however long it may be, since you've broken up, and hope that it all works out for you. If you have any experiences with whether it worked or it didn't work to be friends with your ex, leave in the comments below. I would like to hear about that, to hear about people's experiences. And if you like the content, um, please share with your other friends who you think might need to hear this perspective.